like of a like exact moment, but I'm just curious.
I know it really helped. So at the same time I was doing a business and I really like saw really good results the more me I was. Like if I was on the internet and I shared something vulnerable or something that like was kind of taboo or I shouldn't say or I just like was being my silly self, like that's when I got all the responses and like more customers and more people love me. And so I built that confidence kind of on my own outside of dating. And then
Yeah.
I left my ex and got more confident. And it kind of was like the two merging together that I
Mhm.
was like, I have so much evidence of like
Yeah.
when I show up as this vulnerable self, people love me the most. So I'm going to do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Meeting Your Soul podcast. I am Fair, your host, and this week I have one of my friends, my confidants, that I met through a Love Boldly event, which is very accurate kind of to who she is as a person and kind of why we initially, I think, just were attracted to each other from the beginning. But I adore, this is Kia. Thank
Hi.
you for joining us, hype girl extraordinaire. Also self-love coach, as well as a human design reader, and also a lover of astrology, and that is a woman after my own heart. So we always have great conversations and love diving into all of the juicy details. And today's topic is we're gonna talk about dating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we are. So I am excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to like make this work, and I can't
Yes.
wait to see what comes from it.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and begin. So, like the foundation of what we wanted to really address, especially as both people that are, coaching different women and clients, and like really kind of working into this idea of confidence and like owning your worth and value. I thought we could start there because I think that that's really the foundation to have like an enjoyable dating experience versus one that can cause trauma, PTSD, if you will. So what would you say, like, have you always been very like confident in the dating world, or like as that did that shift, and like how did that really transpire for you?
Oh, I literally remember being 5 years old, boy crazy. I was boy crazy my whole life. Like, I just like to look at them, but I always put them on a pedestal and I had a really low self-esteem. I'd say up until like my really early 20s when I left my ex, I was always like, who would want to date me? Or if someone liked me, it was very much like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. Like, and then it wasn't until I saw like my worth as a woman and I started really appreciating like how special we as women are. And I took my worth outside of these men
Mm-hmm.
and like was like, oh, I'm not ugly and I'm not like worthless. And then I just started getting like chased. But that it's funny because that's when I didn't want to be chased. Like I was like, oh, I'm good, I'm not interested. But it's like you're like a magnet when you stop caring and you find your own worth. It's like you can't get people off of you. But yeah, I did not grow up confident.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's what it comes along to. Like, there is something alluring about confidence. Like, when someone's just really like owning who they are and they're just like in the zone, you're just like, there's something about it. It catches your eye. You can't help but like look over your shoulder and see it.
See them walking down the street and you're like, oh my gosh, who is that?
Yes, right. But that's comes from within. And I think that that's something
Mhm.
that gets underestimated is
It's
like,
literally like a light that shines out of you that's like undescribable. You can just tell when someone loves themselves and like is confident.
yeah. Well,
It's
and it's the power and charisma and just and I think it's the overwhelming love. Like they truly love
yes,
themselves and
yes,
they
you can
see,
feel that.
right? And then they see you, you see them, and I think so many walls get naturally broken down from the get-go because there's this like openness that comes from them and the way they're willing to engage too.
Yeah, and I think when people like love themselves, it takes away from that like competition scarcity mindset because they see their worth and so they're like very welcoming of everyone else.
Yeah.
Versus when people have that low self-confidence, it's like everything is a competition. I can't tell you you're pretty because then you might be prettier than me. But then
Mhm.
like when people are like confident, they're like, we have like the whole world, like it's good.
And how did that come together for you? Like you said, like mid early 20s, like was there a
Mhm.
shift or like what was that trigger point for you?
I just know, so I left. I wanted Me and my ex broke up like 3 or 4 times that year. And I
Mhm.
remember every single time we did it, I just got into that scarcity mindset because I hadn't really dated before him. I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of people like interested in me. And so I very much was like, I have to go back because what are my other options? Who else would date me? I've
Yeah.
got 2 kids. Like, I didn't think I was attractive. I didn't love my body.
Mhm.
Um, and so when I was done with him, I was like, I have to try and find my worth. Otherwise, I'm just gonna like,
Keep repeating the same
yeah,
pattern.
keep repeating this cycle and keep chasing men. And I knew I always hated that feeling of like chasing a man. Like
Mhm.
the feminineness in my body was like screaming, like, this is not how it's supposed to be.
It's
So
the
I did it on purpose. Like
Mm.
I was like, okay, how do we find our worth? And I did a lot of like shadow work and affirmations.
Mm.
Um, when I got into astrology, like
Mhm.
having something non-biased, like not like a best friend, tell me like all the things that I was born with
Yeah.
was really like, wow, like I have these traits about myself. But yeah, it was kind of like a journey on purpose.
Hmm. So you kind of set out to with the intention truly was to like, how can I accept myself more? How can I love on myself more? And like that is the only way I'm going to be able to evolve, but also like to live a more happy, harmonious life too.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like feeling like this. Let's love myself. However the hell I got to do it. Let's do it.
But and so much, and I love that you brought up shadow work first, because I think sometimes we want to hide, like loving yourself. You're like, oh, I'm only going to focus on my positive things. I'm only going to focus on the traits that I find favorable. But like so much of like life and really loving yourself is loving all of who you are and like bringing light to the areas that you might have otherwise shied away from.
Yeah, all the things you want to hide.
Yeah. And that's like, I would say 100% agree. Cause I think once I started doing like very specific shadow exercises, which like, us in this world, we're like, yeah, obviously, like we all do. It's the work, you got to get in there. But once I started doing that and just starting to come to terms with like, okay, it's not that bad, or like, okay, yeah, I may do this, but like, does this really matter? Is this important?
Right.
Where is my value? How can I honor that and my uniqueness and be able to step into that, and then like honing in on like what makes me different than everybody else.
Yeah, because when you start doing the work, those things seem so big and scary. And then you
Mhm.
work on it and it's like, oh, like it was not that big of a deal. It was just like the unknown that seems really scary.
Absolutely. One, I think that is extremely accurate, and it's something because I think it's so scary because we have this idea in our mind. We've got this programming that it's like unlovable, or that
That's
part of
why
us.
it gets put into your shadow, because it's like it wasn't accepted as a child, or you weren't shown love for it. So you're like, now I have to subconsciously hide it.
Yeah. But then once you like welcome it and embrace it, then it's like everything just like kind of falls into place. I feel like you almost get rewarded for like being able to like see all the facets of who you are and like really embrace them. Yes. Anyways, we could probably talk about this for a very long time, but
Yeah.
like when we get into that, because I think that there is, then you lean into this like confidence, like this embodied like representation of who you really are. But along with dating, like someone's not just dating the best qualities of you, like they're also dating these other parts of you too. So
Mhm.
like they need to know, they need to see all that shit, so that like we're all, this is me, take it, leave it, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first guy where you like came straight out the gate like, hey, this is like me and all my like realness, like I don't mind, like how do, because like, okay, the reason why I bring this up is because
Mhm.
in my mind I'm working on this myself, especially within the dating world, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be 100% me from the very moment that we speak. I'm not going to like try to censor myself. I'm not going to try to say the right answers. Like I'm going to say what I really feel. And with that, there's like this like, I like shrink, or like I get scared, like, oh, how are they going to respond,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like what if they stop talking to me after I say this, or what if they like they don't like me anymore. And now I'm at a point where I could give zero fucks. But I would say that took a little bit of practice.
Yeah, I think when I left my longest relationship and I started dating again, I've always been someone who really hasn't had a filter. Like my
Yeah.
mom's brought it up a million times. Like you always made me feel embarrassed. You said the things you shouldn't say. But
Yeah.
I just like I've always been the person like if I want to order 7 things on our date, I'm gonna eat them and I'm not gonna like be like, oh like much love to any woman, but I'm just like, if I want to eat, I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna like starve myself for your pleasure, or I'm
No.
gonna burp in front of you if I'm a burper. Like you're gonna get it now, so I'm not like putting. I just think it's so tiring pretending to be someone you're not, and so I'm like, I'm gonna do it from the beginning. And if you don't like me, you don't like me. But
Yeah.
I like who I am, so let's just let's get it over with on the first date.
You're like, if this is a deal breaker for you, then like why there's really no point in us talking anymore
There's
after
the
this.
door. Yeah.
So, but like, did that come up during that time, like in your 20s, like when you were doing this kind of self-study, or like was there progression? Like, was it like slow little like inching in, or do you like, I also like, do you even remember? I don't know if it was like that, like of a like exact moment, but I'm just curious.
I know it really helped. So at the same time I was doing a business and I really like saw really good results the more me I was. Like if I was on the internet and I shared something vulnerable or something that like was kind of taboo or I shouldn't say or I just like was being my silly self, like that's when I got all the responses and like more customers and more people love me. And so I built that confidence kind of on my own outside of dating. And then
Yeah.
I left my ex and got more confident. And it kind of was like the two merging together that I
Mhm.
was like, I have so much evidence of like
Yeah.
when I show up as this vulnerable self, people love me the most. So I'm going to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
it
kind of
was
the same time.
reinforced. Yeah. It was positive reinforce
Yes.
behavior as well as within like probably friendships and even in the dating realm too.
Yeah.
Huh, that's really interesting. I love because it's like people are like, oh, well, it has to be in these settings. It's like, no, like you can find self-acceptance and self-love and confidence in all different areas of your life. And then I feel like it kind of permeates through everything after that.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think so
that is really beautiful. I love,
too.
thank you for sharing that. I know because being vulnerable is scary. I think that there is this like
I
intimidation
have like
with
heavy
it.
Scorpio placements too. So there is a voice that's like, show nothing about yourself.
Conceal, conceal. Stay
Yeah.
a mystery. Stay a
But then
mystery.
I just love connecting deeply with people. Like I love it if like the first time I was hanging out with a girlfriend or like on a date, if he told me his deepest darkest secrets, he's like, hey, this is why I'm insecure. Like now I love you more. And so I kind of learned that I was like, people love it when I do it and I love it with other people. Like I hate small talk.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us care how our day was. Like we want to know like what upset you, who made you jealous, like what's going on with your mom. Like those are the things we want to know.
Mhm.
And so I got more comfortable being vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the more vulnerable and more honest and real that we are, like that's when that's builds trust. It brings a
Mhm.
foundation of like honesty and like a rawness that I think we're all seeking and we don't get a lot of. Like I think in a lot of areas of our life, you're not necessarily like divulging your life story. Well, sometimes I do to like the sales clerk. Like I keep it, I'm like, today's my rough day. I'm gonna be honest. They're like, how's your day? I was like, it's been shitty, but thank you for asking. How's your day? And they're like, how way to respond in a positive or like authentically. And I was like, that's the only way I live. But I think that more often than not, a lot of times people don't do that. It's like fine. And then you just kind of move
But
along.
then you can see it. You're like, that's bull caca. Like I can see you're not fine. Let's not say we're fine.
You're like, well, and that's the thing is like, again, building trust, that's like where you really start to develop to know someone, like the real someone. And
Mhm.
that's what resonates. That's what sticks. That's when you want to like continue to talk to them because you actually feel like you got a little piece of them when you're with them.
Yeah, and you're building that connection. There's like so much mystery when you're like doing small talk and you're not like sharing about yourself. Like it's the little like real pieces of you that's like, oh, like I want to see more of this person or like I can actually see them.
Yeah. And then that's like where true, I think, romance and everything develops from is this common understanding. I was just listening to this Jay Shetty podcast, and he was talking about how it takes like 100 hours of spending time with someone to consider them a friend. And I was
Wow,
thinking about that with like dating. I was like, that's a lot of hours, you know?
that's crazy.
And like to really like trust them, you know? And so then you think of like over the course of time, like when you're building a relationship or a partnership, like if those hours aren't spent like really diving in and like being
True,
true,
yeah.
like then you have nothing to grow from. And like how are you spending those times, even the minutes with someone in like a more authentic way?
That kind of makes me think about like, you know, when you first start dating someone and you can get that like lovey-dovey crush, like, oh, they're so cute and they were fun. And
Yeah.
you can like some people can kind of get that obsession, like, I
Mhm.
wonder what they're doing, or like I'd love to see them all the time when you don't know a lot of them. But
Yeah.
when they kind of break down those walls and they let you know a lot about them, or they like tell you secrets or like about their childhood, then it's more of a normal, healthy, like
Yes.
it's like a
Really.
healthy crush, because
Yeah.
it's like they become normal, like there's no more secrets, but you put them on this pedestal when they're such a mystery,
Yeah.
like
And
when they don't
sometimes
share a lot about themselves.
right? Like sometimes it's easy to keep them at a distance to keep the mystery of it. But then it's like once you bring those layers down, but then that's when it feels like you can actually see a future with someone. I don't think you can see a future with someone if they're still like this, like almost like shiny object far away.
It's almost like how you view celebrities that like don't share a lot about themselves. It's like, oh, they're so mystery and so like,
Yeah.
but then it becomes much more normal when they share about themselves and like, oh, they're actually a real person and they go to the grocery store and someone's broken their hair. It's like, okay, this is much more normal and healthy.
Well, and I think that that's again, we like really see like we feel like we know them. Then it's like I feel like I know who you are versus just this image or a projection of who you think you should be or how you want the world to view you and see you.
Mhm.
Oh, I do. I love this. So, and then I think that the more, but I think that can only occur when someone feels confident and secure with who they are to be able to let people in and see
So yeah,
you.
yeah.
And like doing your own self work before even getting into the dating scene, I think is critical. Like, I don't think you can really have a positive experience with it unless you're fully confident within who you are. Because, like, you're going to get ghosted, you're going to have people not respond, things are going to happen. And, like, if that's crushing you, like, constantly or hurting your ego or like making you feel less than, then it's like, if you can't take it with a grain of salt and like recognize that's not a depiction of your worth, I don't like I just personally I don't think I would have been like I would not enjoy it as much as I do. I think if it was that way.
Absolutely. Like I've been ghosted. I've had dates canceled, and when I did have low self-esteem, like those things did crush me. Like
Yeah.
those things were like, wow, I'm going to be sad for the rest of the day. But when you do get more confident, it's like this has nothing to do with me. Like
Yeah.
it might sting for a couple minutes, but I'm going to move on with my life versus like making it your whole personality and
Yeah.
being like, they hate me and my world is ending.
And like they don't like me and then no one's ever
Yes, and
like
you
me, and
see
then it
something wrong with
spirals.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like you almost apply it, like you absorb it as like a part of who you are versus just like
Right.
one person's perception, or even it could be like, and it's hard to not take things negatively when it comes down to that, but it's also like they could be doing a bunch of other stuff, or maybe they had like a family emergency. Like you never really know what's going on. So,
Or maybe the universe is literally saving you from someone cuckoo. No, that has actually happened. That has happened.
what do you
So
mean?
this man reached out, like he was the first one that's like, "You're so beautiful. I'd love to take you to dinner and drinks." Like the rest of the guys were like, "Hey, come to my place tonight." And I was like, "No, thank you."
Yeah.
I was so excited. And then I, did my little Instagram dig. He dressed cute. He knew someone I knew. I was like texting my friend and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I found a normal man." And then I find out that on first dates, he whips out his family jewels. He has a wife.
Oh, I
He
thought you were talking about his balls for some reason. I was like, he just
oh,
whipped them
his
out.
pee-pee. His
Yeah.
pee-pee.
No, he does.
Yeah. On the first date. Like without like the woman will drive and he'll whip it out in the passenger seat. He's having a multiple women.
Oh my
He'll
God.
not bring his card, like his money. He has a wife. He has charges against him.
Oh
So
my
he
God.
canceled the date. And I was like, oh, sad. Like
You're like, I really like this
the
guy.
universe was like, you're welcome.
Yeah, you would have gotten literally flashed a dick. You would have got a dick flash on the car ride in. Are you kidding? That's sexual harassment. Like I would like that is like really
It absolutely is. But then, oh yeah, and then women would say like if they canceled on him, like he would stalk their family, verbally abuse them for weeks, like get
oh,
new numbers to harass them. Like this guy was, he was something else.
he's a psycho. Like that is so scary. Have you heard of that one? It's like a Facebook page and it's like, have you dated
Are
him?
we dating the same guy?
Are we dating the same guy? Yes. If you're not on this and you're in the
No,
Pacific
I'm in it. I'm in it.
Northwest, are you in, my sister sent it to me and she's like, I know you've been dating on apps. You need to join this like website and like put people on there. And I just
Saved
had
me so many times.
have you like seen people that you know multiple like yeah.
Hmm.
I was like, I have one of my friends, her ex was on it actually, and it was just like the worst. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so like, anyways, and then but like I have family that's been on it. I was like looking through, I'm like, you never know, you never know. Boys, be careful because you might be on this website and bitches are talking about you.
The game is up.
The game, the jig is up, you're on this website. Oh man. Okay. Sorry, I totally got distracted there for a second. But it's nice because like there's some guys that have an MO, they have some things and they're really like sketchy and the how they handle and treat women is so but like toxic and like I'm sure you have your own shit and that's why you do things like this, but like it's so not appropriate or okay and it's good that people are getting called out. I think it needs to happen more just so it prevents it from occurring in the future.
Because when like most of them are really, really, really good actors, and
Yeah.
then these women have these intuition, and the men will talk them out of their intuition, like you are crazy. Look at me, I'm a good guy. And so this girl's ignoring her intuition because he's gaslighting her. He's like, I know I'm crazy, but let's keep this going.
You're
You're
like
crazy.
you're like crazy. You're like, actually, I looked you up on this website and I have like four other girls that have told me this, screenshot the conversations and sent that shit to you.
Right.
No, I am not the crazy one. You are, sir. You are. But that's, yeah, that is, thankfully, I've had like, I haven't had some terrible experiences. Like all the guys always end up being super nice, but I'm really selective of who I actually end up meeting up with. And like we'll talk for a little while and I get a good gauge of them. And I feel like I do, like I trust my intuition, like without a doubt. And so I think I'm just like, nope, like if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going into it. But then the guys just are so nice. They're like almost like too nice. And then I'm like, oh, I need a little more edge. But I think then it's always safe because I know that at least they're like kind, respectful men. And I think that that's more important than anything else. Yeah. And I think trusting your intuition when it like those spidey senses, like when something goes off, like there's a reason why. And like believing yourself and like being able to not put yourself in dangerous situations because dating can be, you're like putting yourself out there, you're meeting up with people you don't know. It's like it can be a safety issue. So trusting yourself in those is important.
Yeah, I always tell like my girlfriends in particular to like when you get that hit to trust it and
Yeah.
not go to like a group. Of course, if you have like past traumas, this can influence it,
Yeah.
but you can get that like nudge. Like you can meet a man or be texting him and be like something's off. And then you can go to your friends or your mom and be like, "Look, he seems normal, but something seems off." And
Yeah.
someone can talk you out of that intuition. So
Mhm.
I always encourage people to trust it on your own and like be very confident in it because every time I talked myself out of it, that is how I have had the craziest dating stories. Like like men who sent me to therapy, all of that every time I've ignored it. So trust it.
Okay. If you don't mind sharing, or what is a story like one where you're like, you will never even believe this, that this occurred?
I'll like wrap up a few like key points. Like, so I go up to Seattle to meet him on a date. He has no date planned. When I go to meet him, he's like, "What car do you drive?" What do you mean? I tell him. He's like, "Yeah, your car's nicer. I'm coming over." Comes over, hops in my car.
Mm,
Uh, has no plan of like places to go. We're supposed to be meeting for dinner.
yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you already ate." So we go to Shake Shack. He sits in the car while I go order food and while I pick it up. He doesn't come out to join me to pay for it. He
Are we on a date? Like, what are we doing?
he We go to get wine. He forgot his card. He's like, I'll Venmo you later. Never Venmos me. We go to a
Oh,
park. We go to a park. He sits there. He's like, can hold no conversation, just sits there and stares at me, like whispering that I'm so pretty. Doesn't like, does not how to, just not how to talk. Like, he doesn't know how to create conversation or ask me questions. All he wants to do is smoke. He says he's found like the best weed in Washington. Doesn't want to leave Washington because his mom lives here. He doesn't even want to travel outside of Washington. Um,
oh my gosh.
a bunch of other things, but then I was like, how can I leave? Because he's in my car. Like,
I'm gonna drop you off on the corner.
so then he suggests,
escape.
he's like, want to come back and watch a movie? I was like, here's my chance. This was back when I was a worst communicator, but I was like, yeah, let's meet at your car and we'll meet at your place. So we go to his car. I go on the freeway, drive home.
Yeah.
The next day, he's like, I thought we had a really great day. Like, what happened? I was like, oh, I had to go like pick up my kids. Um, and then I ignore a call, and then he starts sending me pictures of his dick, like 5 or 6 of them. I block him, but my phone glitches and his stuff keeps coming.
Yeah.
Then he sends me videos, and then he sends me actual porn. But I knew in my stomach the minute he got in my car, I was like, something's off about him.
Yeah.
Like something's off, but I ignored it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What in God's name would drive a man to do something like this? You know, like, do you think does a guy actually think a woman wants those things? Like, do you think I'm gonna get so
Some of them actually
like random videos?
I think they do. Like, I think some of them are so like so far out of touch that they think it's like a magic stick, and they're like, if she
You are
sees
not
it,
you are not video.
I'm like, I could go on any corner and find one. Like, it's not something rare. Like,
Oh,
I don't want it.
it's not pretty. It does not like it's not photogenic. It never is. No, I've never
I
seen
don't want to see
anything.
it unless I'm like explicitly begging you. Never
Yeah,
show me.
different vibe. We're in a different place. That the date has gone a completely different direction. And then if I'm begging you, please do. But okay, sorry, I would get inappropriate. But oh man, that is wild. That's terrible.
And I'm missing like 20 other parts to the story. I just wrapped it up real quickly, but yeah. And he never sent me the Venmo for the wine either.
Can you not send me a dick pic, and can you actually just send me cash on Venmo? Is actually more of what would be more. I would appreciate that far more. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's so bizarre. I'm trying to think of like a terrible. I've never had like where like a bad intuitive nudge. I did go on a date with this one guy who's a little bit younger than me, which I tend to not because of this exact reason. But we went and he was really cute and he was really tall, but he was like definitely very conceited, and we had good conversation for the most part. But he definitely went in and kissed me like straight out the gate, which I do like someone that's a little
At
more.
the end of the day?
Is at the end of the date. And he was a good kisser. And so like we did kiss and I was fine with that. But then so it wasn't terrible, but he had like some weird things. And I was like, I don't know. This just like, there's something about him. Like he thinks he's way too cool and he's not. And so it just like bothered me in that way. Cause I was like, you're really not that cute. Like you are cute, but like, you're not like the best looking guy I've ever seen. Like, and you're really treating yourself like you are anyways. So then we sound like such a bitch. I don't care. But that's like how I was feeling about it at the end. And then the next day, he calls me. I was working all day. And so he's like, what are you up to today? Do you want to come meet up? And I was like, oh, like actually it's like, and he was like, best date I've been on. And like, God knows when, like, I really enjoyed hanging out with you last night. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know if I would necessarily say the same, but like, thanks for the compliment. And so we're talking all day. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm gotta work. And I'll wrap things up around 7 or 8. And I had like a busy schedule that day. So like finished up everything. I'm like, so what are you up to now? He's drunk at a bar by himself. And so then he's like, come pick me up. I'm like at this bar and I can't get home. And I was like, well,
personal problem.
that's like not my, and he was like, yeah, come over, like, let's watch a movie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, well, where do you live? Where are you at? Like, send me more details. Like, this just seems a little
Right.
like far-fetched at this point. And I had already worked like a full day, so I was like exhausted. So I was like, yeah, I'm not against going over and just like watching a movie with you, but like at the same time, like you sound wasted and like your text messages are not making sense, which this is talk about red flags, red flag. So I'm like, okay, this is a red flag, but like whatever. And that you feel so comfortable to like do this like with me and like you've just met me once. But so then the next day, or no, so that same night, then he calls me and he's like talking to this guy at the bar. So then he puts us on speakerphone. It's like him and this other dude talking to me. And then he's like, yeah, I met her last night. She's super cute. And he was like, you're gonna come over and pick me up, right? Like I'm about to leave. She's about to come. He's like, you'll see her in a few minutes. And I'm like, bruh, I never said I was actually picking you up. Anyway, so then he's like, he was like, yeah. I was like, so you into asshole? Like, are you into like, he was like, can we have anal sex? And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, anal sex. He was like, I bet you would. And I like literally, I was like, and I just hung up the phone and I was like, please do never call me again. And he was like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, you
Are
are.
you kidding me?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? I am appalled right now. I am like literally so annoyed. And he was drunk, so like whatever. Don't even remember his name.
He literally treated you like he was on a DoorDash app, like, let me order some coochie. Like,
Yeah. Yes, yes. And
ew,
I was
what?
Lord. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, did I give the vibes that I would be okay with this? But I was like, I think he was just like, I don't think I'm the first one he's done that to say. And
Yes,
that's the
it
part.
had to have worked somehow, somewhere.
And somehow that would actually like worked out in his benefit. And I was thinking about afterwards, I was like, does this work? Like, I was like, did he actually think that was going to end well for him? Like, I just don't.
What's sad is that if someone had like a really, really low self-esteem and they got that call, they'd be like, oh my gosh, he really likes me. Let me do what I can to please him.
Yeah. And I was like, no, girl. And that's recognizing your worth and like, and then we were going to talk about this too. We got a little sidetracked, but we're back on track. But like having a list, having an idea of what you want in someone, in
Yes.
a partnership and in a relationship and in another individual that you're building a life with, I think is so key. And I think it's saved me from a lot of these moments. Cause like as soon as something like this occurs, or if I feel like if we're just not synced up in certain areas, it's like I'm good, like I know what I want and I'm going to go for that. And like, I'm kind of okay in the meantime. Like I'm very content with my life that like, I don't need to have some filler. And like, if you want that, you can have that. But like, just always having in your mind, like what your true intentions are and what you feel like is your, standard.
I think two things that help with that is knowing your boundaries before you're dating and you go on the date. Like, hey, if do I want to kiss someone? Yes or no? And then you go into it. And then if it happens, you already like you had that conversation with yourself,
Yeah.
but also being comfortable being on your own is
Mhm.
key because then you're not just going to settle for some lame ass date or some lame ass guy just for the company or just because he's there. You're like, actually, I have a lot more fun by myself. I'm going to choose this rather than settling. That
Yeah.
will save you from like the worst dates and the worst people.
And like people that just tear you down or bring you down or and I feel like when
Yes.
you're around someone that doesn't value you, it's like you almost feel worse about yourself just being with them, right?
Yeah, because if you treat yourself good, you're gonna recognize who doesn't. You're like, dude, I treat myself better. I'm not gonna invest any more time into you.
No, and time and energy is the most precious things that we have in this world. And like to be able to like respect that for yourself is, I think, absolutely like pivotal in order to find someone that does. And then when you do, then it's like, oh, like none of these guys like even hold a finger to this. And this is like why, like this makes more sense why I was doing that. But yeah, I think that that's a really great point, and I'm happy that you brought that up because I think that that's like that starting like the stepping stone to be able to like be comfortable in like your own skin being alone, so that you don't just like give in to like these lame ass dudes, random ass guys that really don't deserve our time.
Yeah, and then you can be comfortable walking out of a date or saying no or speaking up for yourself.
Yeah.
'Cause I think when you're like not comfortable being by yourself or just any company is good company, you'll find yourself in really not fun situations.
Oh, and then it's like, yeah, and like recognizing your own worth is just such a key part of that, and that's not dependent on you being in a relationship, or like your partner doesn't necessarily like represent who you are in this world like you do.
Yeah. I don't think you have to be like 100% healed person to go into dating because that's not realistic. But if you have like some self-worth and like you've done some work on yourself,
Mhm.
that's like you're gonna have such a better time dating than if you go into it like looking for company or just like any company is good company and just looking for any kind of attention. You give it to yourself first. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a better time.
Yeah. Well, and like if you treat yourself a certain way, like we treat others how we treat ourselves. So it's like if you're treating yourself a certain way and like you're showing yourself respect, like then that's like you're asking that. That's like that's a bare minimum for what that other person needs to offer you too. And if they're not giving that to you, being so clear about and being okay with being able to walk away if that's the case.
Yeah. And I think everyone should view dating as like abundant. Like the
Mhm.
world is massive and there are so many people out there that will love and adore you. And so as soon as you see those red flags, being able to say like, I will find another person instead of, but he likes me or but he's right here. Or
Yeah.
but what if there's not another guy?
Well, and like even just the abundance mindset and like life and then applying it specifically within dating, I think is a
Yeah.
it gives us the opportunity to say like if this doesn't work out, it's okay because there's more that's gonna come.
Something better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think that is so fun. I've had to remind myself of that a few times, and then also not go to the extremes to be like, if you are not perfect, then like don't even speak to me. But then also like recognizing no one's a finished product. We're all growing, we're all evolving. But like we're like, how do we sync what matters to me, and like finding someone that fits that, I think is really the only thing that is important.
Yeah, it's like the happy medium, not knowing they're human and you have flaws and they have flaws, but like having an abundant mindset when it comes to like, are they like talking shit about you to you? Like, are they being mean to you? Are they mean to your family? Like, kind of more serious red flags, or if they're crossing your boundaries, then
Yeah.
you're like, hey, there's plenty more fish in the sea. But
Mhm.
it's like, hey, if we've got a couple things wrong with them, so do you.
Yeah.
Work on
You're
them.
like, he's got a few flaws, but like flaws and red flags, I think are two very different things, you know?
Right. Like his height is one thing, but him like putting his hands on you, those are some different things.
Yes. Or like habits, or like how he treats his family or his parents or like his mother, or like, if he has children, how he like shows up as a dad, I think is like a
Yeah,
flip
yeah.
too. Oh, I know. But and that's actually like a part of my like so I wrote out my list. We were talking about this beforehand. Viola Davis did this. She was on an interview with Oprah. I love anything Oprah. And so then I was like, oh, and she was like, I wrote out my list, and then I was just very clear about what I wanted. Lauren London also, was it Lauren London? No, it's Lori Harvey. I love Lori Harvey too. She was also talking about it on her Instagram. She's like, I know what I want and I just refuse to settle. And I was just like, this is and such a powerful woman. And like both people are. And I was like, I love that, because I think that we do have this expectation of timelines, or like how long things have elapsed, or like, when we need to be in certain partnership or different milestones, that when we let go of that and recognize our own unique journey, then we're able to like really step into like what was meant for us in the first place, and to allow and receive, I think, a little bit more too.
And not give yourself like a if I'm not married by 30, something's wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Not giving yourself those deadlines. And I think that can when you give yourself those deadlines, it
Mhm.
can give you you'll get led into scarcity. Like, oh my God, I haven't met anyone, something's wrong with me, or I'll settle for this guy because he's around and this is my deadline for my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, like that, there's no one else is putting that expectation on you other than yourself, and maybe, moms might be popping in here and there, like, different family members or friends. And I think more often than not, because they care, like, I think it's always good intentions, but recognizing your own, like, what do you want, what works for you, and also finding someone that really like brings you joy. I think I was very fortunate to be in a relationship with someone for a really long time that really brought me a ton of joy, and I really enjoyed being like, I loved being around that person, and also I felt really like cared for and loved by them. And so like now that I've experienced that, even though we had our own issues, like I do feel like that is like my like that is like a non-negotiable for me. Like I need to feel like a friendship is like the foundation of why we spend time together, and that like you make me laugh and I actually like want to hang out with you, versus someone that you're just like maybe on paper looks great but is a total dud in real life.
No, 100%. I dated this guy for quite a while, but he was the first person that, like, never once did he say anything negative about me. Not my body, not anything. Like, everything was constantly positive.
Yeah.
And so it raised that bar. Like, if I date you and you start talking down on me, like, it's peace out, dude. I don't care how perfect you are. Like, that is a non negotiable, and I know it's possible.
Yeah. Well, and that is like how I deserve to be treated, and like I will take
That's
nothing.
how I treat myself. Why would I let you, like,
Well,
bully me?
that's how you treat them too, you know? It's like I'm gonna treat you the
Uh,
same way. I'm gonna hype you up. I'm gonna make you feel good about yourself. And like that's like what partners, friends, anything, you know, any relationship should be like in your life.
mhm.
But I think over time you learn those things. Like, you know, like you don't
Yeah.
recognize it at first, or like you don't know that. And then later you're like, oh, okay, like I really love this about that relationship, or I really love that about that guy. I didn't like this, but I really love these things, you know, and like kind of crafting together, like, okay, what is that ideal relationship for me? And again, no one's perfect, but like at least having a general idea in your mind of what really matters to you.
I think it helps. I tell my friend this all the time. If you go into dating for like the fun and the experience versus like everyone is my husband. So
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't marry this guy. My husband has to be 6 foot. Okay, but he could teach you a lesson, or he could take you on trips, and you could have really good experiences, and he could introduce you to something that you're like, oh, this is now something I need. And
Mhm.
just you'll feel so much more abundant about dating if you're going into it with like such a carefree attitude versus like, is he my husband, yes or no?
You're like, and then that makes it more playful. And then I think you're more like genuine and more like
Yes.
easygoing, and like the pressure gets like alleviated from the situation so that everyone can just be more and flow and whatever that means for that.
Yeah, and then there's like not so much jealousy. Like, okay, if he is dating other women, cool, so am I.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I want him to be my husband.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you have a roster? Do you keep a roster? Have you?
I'm actually, it's been, so I was on the apps until I want to say February or March.
Mhm.
And then I dated this guy who like I wanted my whole world to end. That's how much mentally he messed with me. So I stopped dating for maybe a month or two,
Mhm.
and I'm open to it. I don't really want to get back on the dating apps, but
Yeah.
I've been meeting people organically, like in
Oh,
person.
how
But
is
no
it just
roster.
like out and about, or like how?
Yeah,
Where,
like I said I have no roster. I'm empty.
I know. Well, when
Leaving couch.
whenever I first started dating again, my girlfriend's like, "Oh, you got to get a roster." I was like, "Wait, what?" And she was like, "No, you need to have like four guys on your bench and then one star player." And she's like, "And you rotate through. They kind of fluctuate, but like that's like just like a good thing." She's like, "Then you never put too much pressure on one guy to be the one, you know, like you have fun, they keep you entertained." I was like, "Bitch, I got so much other stuff going on. How do you keep four guys or
No,
five
I've
guys?"
never had that many people, but I think when I dated before, I used to do that. Like I'd have like a couple people, but it wouldn't be like we're talking all day every day because that's just so overwhelming. I'm like, because I'm a very deep person. Like it's kind of all or nothing. I don't want to small talk with you. When
Yeah.
we're in person, I want to dive deep. But yeah, no roster, not dating right now.
I know. I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I think that that's so beautiful in its own right.
Well, I've gotten really close to my best friend, and she is just like she's filled everything in me that I'm not seeking that from like a man. And it's not like I'm depending on her, but it's just such a healthy, like thriving friendship that I'm like, oh, like I really don't care to go on dates. Like I'm having so much fun with her, or like she gives me words of affirmation, all the
Yeah. Well, and like having a good solid group of girlfriends, I feel like is so like healthy. And it's like getting that like kind of almost not affection, but like kind of like a connection from like other females within your life to be able to lift each other up, be there, like talk to each other. Like I think women need that engagement far more than necessarily like men do necessarily. Well, and you know, I don't want to make that assumption, but I think at least speaking for myself, I need to have my good group of girls. And I think I've always had like a solid group of girlfriends, but then when I was married, I like you know, husband becomes the main thing. We had
Yeah.
family. It was just like that was what I mostly like paid attention to. And then to be able to lean into having like this solid group of women around me has been such a blessing. And now, like, again, I think I'm in a similar boat, like so much fun. Like I was telling Kate earlier, I was supposed to go on 2 dates. Sorry if you watch this. So my bad. The guys that I was going to date with watch this. I do sincerely feel bad about it, but one of my girlfriends having a bad day, and I was like, she's like, I just kind of need to like have my girls with me today, and I was like, I got you, and like canceled and like spent the day with them, and like had an absolute fucking blast. We had such a great day, and I was like so content. And then but I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that I have that within my life, to where like again, we're not filling in like some random dude that doesn't really matter, just to
Yeah.
be able to get that, you know, from your
Just to have a guy around.
yeah, because like you can find it in so many other ways. And like
Mhm.
having that, like what it like I remember my mom used to say, she's like, you shouldn't try to fit a guy, like was it fit your world around a man, like have a man naturally fall like into place within your life. And when everything's together, like they enhance it instead of like you feeling like it needs to revolve around them.
You add value to my life rather than like you become my whole life.
Yeah. And then I think that that became like there's less codependency, like it just becomes a more balanced relationship.
Healthy. Yeah.
So I definitely can fall into the codependency just because I love to nurture, I love to take care of people. And so then
Cancer girl.
I love to I want to be needed a little bit, you know, I like to feel like dependent
Like you want another mother? I'll be your mother.
on trust me. My last couple of relationships, they like it really was. And like I didn't mean to. And I, you know, therapy, different like self-study to be able to recognize in myself how I created that dynamic within the relationship too, because that wasn't healthy for either one of us. And
Yeah.
like but I leaned into it. And so now I'm just like more aware of it. But I think now it's like I don't need to be needed. I like feel validated in who I am. But then also like I am a wife. Like that is like I give wifey vibes for life. Like I will always like I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you're like everything's done. Like, you know, like, and I'm not trying to be like a housewife, but like there's certain things like I do like to nurture. I do like to like treat
Mm.
my man
I'm
in
the
a
total
certain way.
opposite. Like I can turn that off until like a couple months in, and then like it comes out of nowhere. Like I'm like, you're not getting it until you deserve it.
I know. Well, and but then like I know straight out the gate if someone like I'm pretty quick when I go on a dates now. You got three strikes, you're out. Three red flags, yeah, out of there. And then like if someone doesn't fit like what I'm looking for, and I just know intuitively kind of how that's the case. And like if I don't really like if I don't feel excited to speak to you or talk to you, I don't
Yeah.
actively seek it out. I don't think of like I don't want to like think about them all the time, but like I do want to like, you know, I want someone to naturally just pop into my head
You
and be like,
want a little bit of a spark.
yeah, like I think that that's like if I don't feel that, if I don't have that, it's kind of like I'm good. But like if I do have that, then like I'm so present, I'm so in it. And like I feel like then I think any guy that I've like really been somewhat serious with, they feel that from me. And because I do pour, I think I have an overabundance of love. I have a bigger capacity of love, I think, than most. Well, I think we all do, but like I do, like I just pour into people and I think that they feel it very much so. And but it's beautiful and it's like an equal exchange. And I think then that is it creates like again, wifey vibes. Then they're like, I could like both guys have like gotten kind of serious. They're like, I could see myself marrying you, like pretty early on. And I'm like, that's a
Like,
little
oh,
bit of a red flag to me that you're saying this
you.
early. But I like it's a compliment and I appreciate it. And I think it's because I like to be in partnership. I'm very okay in solitude, but I am truly, I think I am meant to be a partner. And I recognize the strength, my strengths in that realm too. So
Recognized early on, like I'm a really good listener and I'm a really good like conversationalist. And so like I'll ask them about everything in their life and I genuinely listen, like phones away at like great eye contact, I'm listening. And a lot of people don't get that a lot. And so they're like, they feel heard for the first time or they like feel comfortable to tell like secrets. And
yeah.
so I'm like, date was average. And they're like, you're the one, like, when's our next date? And I'm like, sorry.
You're like, but then like that, like how wonderful would the world be if everyone actually like truly listened and like really did try to like show up and see people and like when you feel seen like that, I think that's what everyone's seeking.
Yeah, well, I've noticed the difference being reciprocated, like being around friends who do listen and like their phones away, like I want to tell a story and they're like actually listening versus people who are like,
Distracted.
I keep going. And it's like, oh, I kind of feel like crap when you do that.
Well, it doesn't make you feel good. Like no one likes that, and I think that
Yeah.
there's like recognizing it, and like everyone has the best intentions, but I think that there is a lot of, that's where connection happens. That's where you can like actually like build upon with
Yeah.
someone. So, well, I love you, and I'm
I
so
love
happy
you,
we
Mom.
got to like chat and like be here and just like have this like conversation, because I think it's so needed, and I love that it really like stems from this idea of self-love and confidence, and like being able to recognize your worth, and like knowing that that's going to transpire into more successful relationships and more genuine like partnerships. But is there any other like one little piece of advice that like if someone were to take one thing away from this like podcast that you would want them to take?
Oh, I would just say like put yourself first and that means everything. Like
Mm.
date yourself and know what you like and don't like if you made plans with yourself and then a date comes up, like honor that and like just put yourself on the pedestal and your dating life is going to thrive.
Yeah. Lean into that full feminine queen energy.
Oh,
Like,
yes, like women are supposed to be chased. Like you
yeah.
really are the prize. You make life. Like life is nothing without us as women. We are nurturers. Men need us.
Yeah.
Sex runs the world. Like you have it. Like you are the gate to it. So see yourself as that prize, and other people will recognize that in you.
Honor your sacredness. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. I am
Me.
excited to have all of you guys listen in too. Thank you for listening into our conversation. How can people find you if they are curious about how to stay in touch?
My Instagram is my full name. It is KIAORATAHI. Kia ora tahi.
Yes, I love your name. I love the way it's
Thank you.
and yeah, coaching, human design, all the things. Check her out.
That be a positive platform.
Mhm. And also so hilarious, the best content out there. I always like actively seek you out because it always makes me chuckle, and you just bring me so much joy. So thank you. And yeah, until we meet again, my dear.
Bye, I love you.
See you later. Love you all.